Now, ever since this Bruno Guimarães story was obviously aired out that Arsenal had gone ahead to obviously put in its first verbal bid and it got rejected by the side of Newcastle and they told them that the player is not for sale, Arsenal is like, you're joking? You'll sell us this player, indeed. And as I told you, the CEO of Newcastle came out and told us earlier this year, I think in the first quarter of the year, that every player at Arsenal, every player at Newcastle has a price. If you meet the realistic price of this player, we obviously sell that player immediately. Welcome to the Rokani Media Football. How are you guys and where are you watching us from? I go by the names of Rokani David. Smash like button, comment and share. We're here to bring you this story of Bruno Guimarães' second bid prepared by the club of Arsenal. And remember, we are powered by Think Landscaping. Think Landscaping are dealers in Think Landscaping. Think Landscaping are dealers in designing, planning, and transforming your outdoor spaces, gardens, compounds, and so on and so forth. So this company will obviously even do maintenance. You might not have gone ahead to obviously design your outdoor space with Think Landscaping, but they can help you maintain it. All else, transform it into something more beautiful that you've ever thought about. So call them on those numbers that you see on the screen and you'll thank me later. I tell you, you will thank me later about Think Landscaping. And we're here to obviously let you know about their services. And you guys, you can contact them on those numbers and the rest will be history in here onto a beautiful channel known as the Rokani Media Football. So let's obviously go eyes. Now, hand of Arsenal, the biggest fly on the wall of Arsenal, has come up and obviously told us the following about the Bruno Guimarães story, that Andrea Bata made contact with Bruno Guimarães' camp through Kia Jurabishian, while an informal proposal worth under £60 million was floated to Newcastle via intermediaries to gauge their willingness to negotiate. Newcastle's response was clear: Bruno is not for sale. No official bid has been submitted, with Arsenal yet to make formal club-to-club contact. Any serious offer would be presented directly to Newcastle, with Newcastle unwilling to lose both Bruno Guimarães and Sandro Tonali. This may have been an attempt by Arsenal to test the waters before pursuing other midfield options. For now, the situation remains unchanged unless Arsenal return with a formal offer or their transfer budget changes. So this is what this is what the hand of Arsenal is telling us, and he's also looking through what he's also confirming to us what Fabrizio, David Austin, and very many others went ahead to say, that they went ahead to contact Bruno Guimarães' camp through Kia Jurabishian in there for you, and they went ahead to float a verbal proposal of less than £60 million, and it said it was £55 million in there for you. So it got turned down by the club known as Newcastle. They turned it down. Why? Because they told the player is not for sale and they are not willing to obviously lose two midfielders in the same summer transfer window. That is Bruno Guimarães and Sandro Tonali. That's what Newcastle is hugely saying about this. But as it stands, I don't think that they'll keep these midfielders provided the right money comes in. And they're playing the L game to see that bid that Arsenal puts on the table next will obviously be more and more and more huge. Then we head to Team Talk have told us that Arsenal are expected to test Newcastle United with a bid worth around £80 million. The Gunners have made the Brazilian their priority midfield target ahead of Sandro Tonali. The Magpies remain determined to keep the 20-year-old, who has no plans to sign a new contract. You get? So, Arsenal are trying to test. All Arsenal expected to go in with a bid worth £80 million to test a team known as Newcastle. Remember, Sandro Tonali is for £100 million, and they're like, let's obviously go ahead and really test this club and see whether they'll obviously come up and obviously admit all bow down to the money we are obviously giving them. That is £80 million. And if they table an £80 million transfer fee, I think it works well for them, because those are like 100 million euros, and they bought him for £40 million from Lyon in the January transfer window of 2022. So that means at 80, they are making a profit of £40 million, and that is a very huge profit margin that Newcastle will be making. I think this is what Newcastle wants, and I think the moment they go in for second one, that will be evident enough that Newcastle has gone ahead to obviously put in a very huge shift to say to it that they really test Newcastle again. But at 80, Newcastle makes a profit of at 80, Newcastle makes a big profit of 40. At 60, Newcastle makes a profit of £20 million only. So we're here to wait and see how things really pan out, because Newcastle, if I'm Newcastle, I take the 80. Why? Because I get off the that means I stay with my profit of 40, and I go ahead and really look out for a midfielder who is £40 million, and I know they can really get a good one at that amount of money from the French league and replace this guy. They can also come up and obviously not even touch the Sandro Tonali money, if at all Sandro Tonali is also sold, because you can use that £80 million given to you by Arsenal to get in two midfielders of apt quality there for you. Craig Hope, the man behind breaking this story of Bruno Guimarães to the club of Arsenal, first bid in, has told us that Arsenal are preparing a second approach to Newcastle for Bruno Guimarães. Intermediaries have been told by Newcastle's hierarchy the player is not for sale, and it's likely their stance will remain the same. So, Arsenal preparing a second bid, of however much Newcastle says the player is not for sale, and Fabrizio Romano, Newcastle told Arsenal they don't want to negotiate. But Arsenal have told Bruno Guimarães' camp and are ready to tell Newcastle that they plan to return with a new proposal. Arsenal want to try again. So, the fact is, Arsenal believe that the player is for sale. In the story I really last time, there was a clause that was in Bruno Guimarães' contract that if at all Newcastle doesn't qualify for the Champions League, the player will be available for £60 million. Now, Arsenal, for starters now, need to get green light from the player known as Bruno Guimarães, because if the player indicates that he wants to leave with 2 years left on his contract, I think that will be a very huge signal that he wants to leave. And I tell you, Newcastle will sell if Bruno Guimarães says, I want to leave. Newcastle will sell because we've seen them do the same thing to a guy known as what's the name of that guy? Alexandra Isak. You remember? Isak was a player who told Newcastle he wants to leave. And Liverpool was willing to meet the realistic evaluation of Newcastle. And Newcastle went ahead to make a profit of times 2 the amount of money they bought him from. What's the side? From Real Sociedad. I think this is the blueprint of Newcastle when it comes to negotiating deals like this. And they really want to milk a lot of money from his players. When you look at Sandro Tonali, he came in through for 70 million euros from AC Milan to Newcastle, and they now have what we call if they sell him for 120 million euros, they are making a profit of 50 million euros. from the sale of the player, right? Now, if they make a profit of 50 million euros from Bruno Guimarães, that means they are making a profit of 100 million euros from the sale of two players who have been in the midfield. So I think that speaks a lot of sense. So guys, your thoughts on Bruno Guimarães' second bid prepared by Arsenal are welcome in the comment section below. Rokani David remains my name. First video of the day, and let's wait and see in how long we'll be back to obviously present you the next trending story.